Democrat Tim Kaine of Virginia sits in the Senate Armed Services and Foreign Relations Committee, and he joins me now. Well, it's very funny when this administration tries to kind of give a little bit of like a bureaucratic answer about whose turf is whose on the day that they appointed Bill Pulte to run the intelligence apparatus of the entire United States. I take it you were not very satisfied with that answer from the Secretary of State.
No, Chris, that's fair. I mean, Marco Rubio is the first person since Henry Kissinger to be both Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. And for him to say, well, I don't really have any control over what these other guys do, that was sort of a feckless response. The administration shared with us the legal rationale for the boat strikes in the Pacific and Caribbean. I found them deeply, deeply unsatisfactory, but at least they shared them with us in classified. And they shared with us the legal rationale for the Maduro removal operation. Again, I didn't find it persuasive, but they shared with us. But on the Iran war, 92 days in, they have refused to share with any members of Congress. So what are they hiding? Either there's some equivocation about the legal justification, or maybe some qualification like you can do this but don't bomb schools and bridges and civilian infrastructure. Or maybe there's some factual assertions like this war will be over in 2 days, or the Iranians will never try to close the Straits of Hormuz. They're clearly hiding something. And the fact that they won't share it with Congress and the Republicans seem fine with that, that shouldn't be fine with the American public.
You just mentioned the boat strikes in the Caribbean, which is a story that we've covered here, but has sort of gone on, I think, in the background, frankly. And there's reporting we've just crossed the threshold of 200 individuals that we have killed. I think lots of independent legal observers would say that the U.S. government has murdered them. They were civilians who were killed, not in self-defense, under no plausible account of war. And you raised something today in the hearing I thought was interesting, that your understanding is the targeting criteria does not even require the presence of narcotics on the boats. Is that correct?
Yeah, Chris, I've been briefed on the targeting criteria, and sadly, I can't describe it here because it's all been classified, but I think I can describe things that aren't targeting criteria. And Senator Paul, a Republican, and I today in the hearing pointed out that to strike these boats and kill all on board, the U.S. military does not have to have any evidence that there's narcotics on the boats, and they do not have to have any evidence that anyone on the boats is armed. So for some reason, the presence of narcotics and whether the folks on board are armed is irrelevant to the question of whether we can sink the boats and kill everybody on board. And the Secretary of State did not challenge me on that. And he couldn't, because I've been briefed consistently on this since September 2nd. Again, I'm sorry that I can't describe what the targeting criteria are. They've only done this in classified to try to put a gag rule on senators. But I think I'm not prohibited from describing my shock and surprise about what the targeting criteria are not. The administration could say, we'll only strike boats if we have some proof that there's narcotics on board. We'll only strike boats if these folks are armed. They intentionally chose not to include those as targeting criteria, and that raises massive human rights and legal questions.
As we speak tonight, we have reports of American, I believe, naval forces stopping or targeting ships around Iran in the Strait of Hormuz. We also have reports of Iran retaliating with fire aimed at Kuwaiti targets. This is not the first time, obviously, this sort of thing has happened amidst a ceasefire. Donald Trump says he doesn't care if there's a deal, and also that he's kind of bored of the whole thing. And I've kind of thrown my hands up at trying to cover where we are, because it's like Groundhog Day. Do you have a sense of where we are? Like, are you privy to any information that would make more sense of where things are than we are? Well,
first, Secretary Rubio, the thing he said today that might have been the most surprising is, oh, no, we're not still at war. That almost got him laughed out of the room. We have U.S. troops deployed there. There's firing between the U.S. and Iran and U.S. positions in the region and other nations in the region and commercial shipping, but they're trying to pretend that it's not a war. There's a ceasefire that is holding to some degree. At least we're not in a maximum bombardment campaign. But here's where we are, Chris. The ceasefire that's partial has to be made complete. We have to complete it, extend it, and then President Trump has to find an off-ramp for this illegal, unnecessary, and unwise war that's costing American troops and it's punishing American families with gas prices, food prices, and so much else.
Yeah. All right, Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, thank you for your time tonight, sir.